Now you could say this stage is what separates an amateur from a professional looking logo. Do you remember some of the key points from our earlier lesson? What makes a good logo? Well, firstly, of course, we want to go through that list and just ensure that our concept isn't breaking any of those cardinal rules. If it does, what could we do to address some of these potential problems? Could font sizes or weights be adjusted? Could it be better balanced? What changes can we make to rescue a logo if it's making some of these mistakes? And to share my own project as an example, in this case, my chosen concept, when I tested it at small sizes, and of course you can do that by just zooming out, this full version of the logo was just too small to be used in all applications. So I'm talking profile pictures on social media, avatars, something where you've literally just got a few pixels to work with. So in that situation, you could consider creating a submark for the brand, or you could address those issues. Perhaps I could have tightened the spacing, made the font a little bolder. Well, I opted to create a submark, and I did this simply taking the first letter of the word Totteridge and then the B and H from Bakehouse. I used these with the exact same fonts and treatment as the primary logo, but placed them together and made sure I was happy with the positioning and the contrast in size. And I think the result is quite effective. It's a submark that quite clearly ties back to the primary logo, and so it addresses that problem. So our submark really provides a strong option for usage in situations where the full logo would struggle to be seen clearly. Let's have a look now at one more area that my logo could use some improvement, which is its overall balancing. So when we ask ourselves if we're happy with the balance of a logo, really we're asking, are we happy with the overall layout, the spacing, the kerning between letters, and is everything visually balanced? When we look at it, if it's supposed to be centered, does it feel centered to our eye? And a little method I like to use to test this is using semi-transparent blocks, just to help me visualize and isolate where there might be any problems. So you can see I've used this to look at the spacing between lines. I've taken into account the deliberate overlap between Totteridge and Bakehouse, which is placed in such a way it appears that it's sitting on top of it. But interestingly, the T looks quite hollow. If you look at the first T in the word Totteridge, the bottom left side of that is just empty space. So I've decided not to align the tagline at the bottom to the very edge of the T, but I've aligned it just next to the stem, because for me that balances better visually. Next, looking at the type for the word Totteridge itself, I notice there's quite a big gap between the R and the I, at least the top portion of those letters, and also between the D and the G. You've got the two sloping edges which coalesce together in the middle, but it leaves quite a big gap at the top and bottom. So the bottom part, the gaps are not as obvious because we have a word Bakehouse overlapping, and so our eye isn't drawn to it, but the top part of those letters definitely needed attention. So you can see the results when I've tightened those up, and that's looking far better balanced now. What if you like your concept in principle, but you're still exploring ways to refine it visually? And this can be especially true for logos that feature symbols. Well, keep exploring variations and iterations until you get it right. For example, look at this logo I developed for Highbridge Partners. So the concept here was quite simple. We wanted to create a symbol that both looked quite obviously like a bridge, but also read as the letter H. So after deciding this was the correct route for the brand, it took literally dozens of iterations to arrive at something we felt was perfect. So this is all part and parcel of the development stage. In a real world, you wouldn't want to invest this kind of time unless a client had perhaps at least indicated that they were interested in pursuing this concept further. Once you've addressed these issues, looking for solutions or alternatives if needed, we come to the part where we do some testing. And although the results look great, it's actually very easy to throw your logo into a few different situations just to test it out. So you could grab some stock imagery. Here I've just placed the logo on the top of a menu. You could even grab assets from the website of a similar brand. You wouldn't publish or use this in any way, of course, but if it's just for testing to see how the logo works in a particular situation, then it's absolutely fine and well worth doing. So, how is your logo concept measuring up so far? Please remember to spend time refining and tailoring your logo to avoid those common mistakes we considered. Don't be afraid to explore multiple iterations if needed until you get the balance just right. And before you finish, be sure to test your logo in different situations. Yes, it might feel like a lot of work, but trust me, it's worth it in the end.